This summer, we're going through the parables in our preaching series. And what would a series on parables be without touching on the prodigal son? Perhaps one of the most beloved parables in all of the New Testament. But I was at a conference a week ago at Whitworth, the Whitworth Institute of Ministry, and they brought in two of the new seminary presidents that are serving now at Fuller and the new seminary president at Princeton. And I went because I was so interested in my alma mater at Princeton to see who is this new leader they have. His name is Craig Barnes, and he has served congregations before. He's served most recently at the National Presbyterian Church in Washington, D.C. So he's a renowned preacher, which is not always the case of a seminary president, but he is a model preacher for now the students at Princeton. Well, he gave he said a few words even before he started preaching that were really preaching. They were preaching to our hearts every time he spoke. And one was a word about the prodigal son. He said that in all his years working at Presbyterian churches, he hadn't met too many true prodigal sons. Presbyterian churches, he says, are filled with elder brothers. People, at least churches he's served, like the National Presbyterian Church, it's filled with people who are very much achievement-oriented and wanting to get things right and wanting to please God, and never quite sure if God is pleased, but never necessarily describing themselves as the prodigal son, but as the elder brother. And so that's the word that I would want to give to you this morning. As elder brothers out there, you are loved. You are so loved. You are doing good work. You are doing extremely good work in all of the things, the areas that you're serving in. I mean, I look out at this congregation and Ken has gone, and I'm not worried because you all have given yourselves to serve Christ, and you're doing good work. So here this morning, as elder brothers, you are loved. And so this morning we're going to focus on that part of the prodigal son that focuses on the elder brother. Hear these words from Luke chapter 15, verses 20 through 32, page 78 in the New Testament. So the prodigal son set off and went back to his father. But while he was still far off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Then the son said to him, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son." But the father said to his slaves, "Quickly, bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. And get the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." And they began to celebrate. Now his elder son was in the field. And when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. He called one of the slaves and asked what was going on. He replied, "Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf, because he has got him back safe and sound." Then he became angry and refused to go in. His father came out and began to plead with him. But he answered his father, "Listen, for all these years I have been working like a slave for you, and I never disobeyed your command. Yet you have never given me even a young goat that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came back, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him." Then the father said to him, "Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice because this brother of yours was dead and has come to life. He was lost and has been found. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. The sermon that I'm going to preach, I've preached before, but not here. If any of you came in 2011 to the Fat Tuesday service at St. Mark's Lutheran Church, I preached this sermon there, and it is on the elder brother. But it's in a different form. This is a narrative sermon, so you get to sit back and listen to his story this morning. And I will say, the Fat Tuesday service is right before Lent. It's on the night before Lent begins, so you'll hear a little bit about Lent in here. It was going to be a long, hard Lenten road for Sarah Jean. As in years past, Sarah Jean would give up sugar. 5% spiritual challenge, 95% weight loss strategy. It would be excruciating for her at times, especially when she checked in on her great Aunt Betty, whose only remaining hobby was cookie baking. Being faithful to her Lenten discipline would be hard work for Sarah Jean, but wasn't this what faith in God was all about? Obedience, perseverance. If life was about having fun, she'd not go to church at all. She'd probably try out those Zumba classes at the Y on Sundays instead. No, Sarah Jean went to church and believed in God because it was good for her. It put her in community with nice people. It gave her the support system a single woman needed. Faith in God, Sarah Jean believed, was work, plain and simple. And that's probably why she never invited anyone to go with her. Her roommate had even dropped a couple of hints that she wanted to go. But Sarah Jean knew she wouldn't like it. Once you got to know people there, you started feeling obligated to go and serve and give. Besides, Sarah Jean, her roommate, was on the wild side, not very disciplined. Not really the churchy type. Sarah Jean had decided a while ago to save her roommate the trouble. You might think her story sounds funny, but Sarah Jean had been around her church a long time and had sat through a lot of sermons. She would never say it out loud, but she had God figured out. God was serious, full of grace, yes. Full of love, of course. But mostly, God was there to make sense out of life and give clear guidelines on how to live. One day, Sarah Jean went to church alone and heard a story. It was a story Jesus told about a brother who thought he had his father figured out. The guy was an oldest child. He hadn't asked to be born into a family with a moron of a younger brother. But that's how the chips fell. His younger brother had skipped town with an early inheritance check and was doing God knows what with it. Since he, as the older brother, was burning with resentment, he couldn't imagine the kind of resentment his father felt. The older brother had lived with his father a long time, long enough to know that he was a serious father, the kind you did not want to disappoint. And so, imagine his confusion when he returned from the field and heard the thumping of bass notes and the shrill jingling of tambourines, and heard that not only was his little brother back, but that his father was throwing a party for him. What was his father doing, wasting a plump calf on someone like his brother? What happened to rewarding hard work and discipline? The father, it turned out, had been willing to throw the same kind of party for him, but he'd never asked for it. All that is mine is yours, the father said. But we had to celebrate and rejoice because this brother of yours was as good as dead. And he's alive. The older brother had underestimated his father. He had assumed that at his core, his father stood for responsibility and doing right. But instead, at his core, his father stood for love and celebration, for generosity and delight. The preacher at Sarah Jean's church went on to recount the ways that God had shown this kind of celebratory spirit since the beginning. How at creation God sat back and looked at everything God had made. And behold, it was very good. How when God made a covenant with Abraham and Sarah, it had been for the purpose of spreading blessing to the whole earth. And how God had shown a sense of humor by choosing two people way past their prime to start the ball rolling with a son named Laughter. How God kicked off Israel's journey through the wilderness with victory at the Red Sea and led them to a land flowing with milk and honey. Then later, how God sent Jesus to live among us, generously, full of love and compassion, giving his life for the sins of the world, and how Jesus promised to return, inviting us to his feast of celebration that was meant to be shared with all the children of God. Love and celebration, generosity and delight at the heart of God. Well, this new, old thought just about knocked Sarah Jean over. It was a completely different starting point for the self-denial and discipline that she saw as so central to Lent, so central to her faith for that matter. The sweets in Sarah Jean's house did end up in the hands of her neighbor kids because Sarah Jean really was serious about weight loss. But Sarah Jean decided to enjoy a cookie with her Aunt Betty when she visited her on Sunday afternoons that Lent. Aunt Betty, you'll never believe this, but you're looking at an evangelist, she said as she ate a snickerdoodle. I actually invited my roommate to church, and she came. And get this, I didn't even go last week, and she drove herself there. Sarah Jean also decided that in addition to giving something up for Lent, she would commit herself to a new discipline. Wednesday night Zumba classes. Every once in a while, as she moved her hips and sweated and giggled at herself on the dance floor, she would close her eyes and picture herself in the middle of the party that God was throwing for her.